Hey class, it's Nick. I got a tutorial for you today about making a topo model in Rhinoceros from a topo drawing or from a concept for a topo. What I've got here is just an image I got online, and it would be similar to something that you guys maybe draw from a sketch, or maybe something that you already started in inside of like AutoCAD. But the idea of like a topo is that you've got contour lines, and they've got numbers on them. That's the number of feet above sea level. And in this particular case, the topo lines are pretty. There's a pretty good like gap from one set of lines to the other. So this is 700, and you notice that if we go down to the bottom, it goes to 635. And I didn't exactly do my math here, but that probably means that these are about 25-foot contours, which means it's a very large site map. And this, in fact, let's see here. I don't know. This says 1 mile is 1 inch. So that's pretty. This is a pretty large map. I'm just going to use it today as a reference image. But I just want you to be aware that that would be a pretty significant drop if this were a very small. If this were a very small drawing. You can see that we go up to like 800 here. And at the top of the hill, is 877. So a few things here. There's like a creek. It actually says creek that goes through here. Notice what it does to the topo. You can see that this is where the low area is, and then there's kind of a floodplain here. Like the further apart the contours are, the shallower the change in elevation. Excuse me. You can see that when the lines are closer together, that's going to form a ridge. It's going to be like a really sharp kind of vertical change. So you've got kind of a slope and ridges. So just take note. And then here you got 2 really steep ridges on either side of the creek. And the creek is the lowest point. I would say it's where the water is. They mark the kind of highest points here and here. As you can see, this is kind of a hill or a peak. And they go up to like a little round spot. So things tend to go, when they go up, they tend to go to a little round spot. When they are going down, they don't tend, unless it's like a sinkhole, they don't tend to repeat that. But that's kind of the idea. Notice also that they do like a thicker contour line for the major contours, and that would be the 100-foot. Yeah, and actually I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 25-foot increments. So 725, 750. Or something like that, maybe 20-foot increments, I guess, because there's 4 in between here to that. So 20-foot increments. Oh, and actually, contour line 20 feet. So that's actually what we're talking about in this image. This is how you read a contour. And this is, generally, these are the principles that you guys should apply when you're drawing your contours for your landscapes, just so that you kind of have an understanding. You can see, like, organically, you'll get spots where water may be flowed down, and it kind of makes this kind of bump. You can see here, they're not generally just these smooth, just kind of rounded things. They have these kind of whorls in them, and you might attempt to simulate that in your thing. But the reason why I'm showing this is because we're going to import this into Rhino as one method of making your contours. So an easy way to do that is go into Rhino, go to Top View. Go to viewport, go to view, go to background, bitmap, say place, and I can just grab this topo. And I'm not going to worry about scale right now. I'm just going to drop it, and you can see that it allows you to change the size of it on the screen. I make it fairly big. It's locked to the proportions of the drawing, and I didn't really change any of the settings. That's fine. So. I guess I could scale it or something, but this is fine. This seems good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and say enter, and then excuse me, I'm turn off the grid. Actually, I think I can do grid. Show axes. No. All right, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. I think if I go back to viewport background big map, I can. I guess it's kind of the option. Those are kind of the options. But anyway, this allows me to kind of trace the image if I want to. There's other options for doing it, but I'm just going to show you this one for now. So Let's make a layer, and I'm probably just going to make my layer red or something. And you can go through and commence to tracing, your contours. You don't have to trace all the contours. I would actually just trace the major ones for now. And I'll sort of talk about this in a second here. But so you can use I'm using the curve tool here, and you kind of have to get the hang of it. It's not as precise as the Illustrator tools. And you could import, if you're comfortable drawing in Illustrator, you could trace this image in Illustrator and bring it in, and that would be totally fine. That's not gonna be a problem. Okay, so if you want to do that or go in AutoCAD, you can do that. So this is the curve tool, and you can see it lays points in a little bit different way. These are sort of like Bezier, but you can't really control them, and it takes a little while to get the hang of this. You can pan while you're drawing by holding the right mouse button, and you can zoom just by using the mouse wheel. So you can get that if you want it. And then once it's done, I actually have 2 of these, so I'm going to join them together, and then I'll actually kind of fix that. You don't have to be exact because this is just going to get. We're gonna process this later, so it doesn't have to be perfect. There's that tool. There's also this interpolate curve tool, which is actually probably better. And I probably should have started with it in the first place. That's actually the stream. I want to do this one. And actually, interpolate curve is nice because basically, like where you lay down a point, it's going to thread a line through it. And that's, for most of you guys, it's just going to be much easier. Experiment with both types. Pardon me, I've got some allergies this morning here. Anyway, and I'm gonna go ahead and trace these major lines, and then I'm gonna come back in the video, and we'll start to process this in the contour. All right, I will talk to you soon. Okay, so I've got my contours drawn. I went ahead and made a box for the site, and I put on a layer called bounds. You notice I gave them different colors. Once I've got the contours, I can I want to go ahead and check like what I've got. So I did the major ones. I did the 600 foot. I did the 700, which actually ends up kind of over here. There's 700 over here. 800, and then and then I did the ones that are at the very top. So I did this 877 kind of contour and this 859 contour here. This must be 800. Up here because it's the one that follows 700. So just kind of keep track of those. There is I can't quite find. I think this is just what the inside of this last contour is, and as a matter of fact, that looks like one that I want to pick up. So let me just go ahead and quick kind of trace that one. So the bottommost one is the one you want to. So this 635, actually this one, is one that you're going to want to trace. And you see with the interpolate tool, if you place it kind of at the junction of where you would normally draw Bezier in Adobe Illustrator, it kind of like threads the needle, and that's kind of the idea. So it's actually pretty simple to make some really quick curves with it. I'm also drawing slightly outside of the bounds box, and that's intentional. That's basically so that I can be sure that when I crop from the box, it's going to make sure that I've got really clean edges. So make sure that you just give it a little bit of overlap as you go outside. And I'm just going to kind of finish this off here. I just realized. So do the major contours, do the bottommost contour and the topmost contour, and that should actually get you pretty much what you need, at least for this project. When you're working with more sophisticated maps, you'll be able to get access to like GIS data and some other stuff, and that'll probably help you out. But for now, we're just going to use lines. Let's see what this looks like. I'm actually kind of curious what our Oh, actually, wait a minute. So that's 600, and that's I don't know, 635. Huh. Well, a little bit of information never hurt anybody. So I guess I didn't need it, but I'll take it. I mean, if you really wanted to be accurate, you could draw every single one of these lines, but you really don't need to, because the technique we're going to do is going to help us kind of like interpolate these. Since I've got all that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my map for now, and I can just go to background bitmap, and I can say hide, and now you can see what I'm actually left with here. I actually got a little kind of remnant. Actually, it means I want to actually turn this back on again, because I need to organize these. So I'm going to make a couple layers here just to be organized. So I'm going to do 600, do 635, the one that I just drew. I didn't need, I think I joined it. Yeah, okay. And I can just put these on those layers, and I'm going to give them all different colors just to help me visualize what I've got. So 600 is going to go on this layer, and sometimes it's kind of hard to think of colors for everything, but give it your best shot. You could make them in a rainbow or something if you want to, I guess. 600. This must be 700. Remember not to use yellow. I'm gonna make this one orange. Okay, 700 is this one, that one, and this one. Let's put all those on 700. Okay, and you can always hide the ones you're not working with, just to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Okay, so that's 800, and then we've got a couple more. So 800 is going to be brown. Those are kind of similar to each other. I might want to do something else here. Magenta. There we go. A little hot pink. 800. Off. And I'm going to do 800 plus. I'm not going to give each one its own line. I don't really want to do that. So we'll just do this one, and we'll do like a brighter kind of green. Okay, turn these all back on again. And then I don't really need this layer anymore. It'll warn you if you're going to accidentally delete some lines, so don't worry about that. Yeah, better. Okay, save. Yeah, okay. Now we're cooking. So we go down this way. We go down this way. Yep. So we got those contours. Let's double check to make sure everything's kind of crossing the box. Yes, yes, yes. Yep. Looks good. Just for the sake of, just to help us out here, I'm going to bump this up a little bit. Alright, cool. Now the trick is going to be to scale this, and I'm going to pretend that this is a different scale. So you're going to take your box, and ostensibly your box is, 315 feet, right? Because those are the dimensions that we started with, or some number of feet that you know. So I'm going to go ahead and just rescale it. So I'm going to say scale. The origin point is going to be a corner, and the scale factor, so I'm going to do reference point, or reference point, sorry. So I'm just going to go from one end to the other, and then the second reference, actually, this is how I do it. There may be a better way, but I'm going to draw a line. That's the number of feet that I want. So my thing's already in feet, so the next point is going to be R, and then the number of feet. So let's just pretend that this is that side is 315 feet, and then we'll do 0. So that's a coordinate. I want to do a coordinate that's relative to this coordinate at 300. So that's 315 feet in the x and 0 in the y, and then it should, and then just close it. And now, I mean, this is going to be like way big, right? Way big. But this will be easy to work with. So okay, so we're just gonna select this, and we're gonna say scale. The origin point is this. We're gonna go by reference, so we'll start with this point. So we're gonna say that we'll take this length. All right, and then we're gonna And I'm zooming out with my little scroll wheel. And then if I take it to that, I've just scaled it visually to 315 feet. And if I check my dimensions for this thing, let's see here. Actually, it's not close polyline. Okay. Let me, that's actually not a good way to do it. Let's go to drafting, and let's drop a dimension on this. My units must be, oh gee whiz, units are in millimeters. Ugh. Let me, okay, so that says 315. Yeah, so I just make sure your units are right before you start doing all this. So now we're in feet, and I think, you know, because I actually specified feet before, my units are okay. Let's double check this. Maybe details will work now. Oops. Didn't really show anything. Let's really want to be sure that I'm get my dimensions right here, so that you can get your dimensions right. I mean, that says 315, so fractional. Let's do feet and inches. 315 feet. All right. So yeah, if we did it right there, it's gonna work. Okay, got our topo. So now we know that these things are in feet, and we know that we're talking about like 315 feet. So let's go ahead and start moving these things up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically say that, let's pick a 0, and we'll say that 600 is going to be 0 in the z-axis, okay? And remember, 600 is our purple, so that isn't going to go anywhere. 635 is going to go above that, so let's move that 35, let's call that 35 feet. So we'll do front view, move. Well, we can do this in perspective. So I'm going to turn off project. Turn off my zaps. Pick a point on that line and say move to. So we're going to say R0, 35 feet. Oof. Okay, so that is going to be pretty big at this scale. So let's think about this. Because I remember I went from miles, so let's call it 3.5. Okay. So let's just do that. Let's just do move. In yours it'll be right. I messed around with this, so my thing's not going to be very accurate. You are going to know roughly according to your measurements how many feet you want. Let's just do 3.5 feet. So point to move to is R0, 3.5 feet. That's pretty good. I don't know if I want to. Maybe I could do point. Let's even do it by another factor of 10. So let's do move R0, 0.35 feet. And actually I need to R0.35 feet. Not much, but it'll work out. All right. And then we've got our 700. So I'm going to go ahead and select, all of these. And then we're going to say move, and say this one's a big jump, so this one is going to be 10. If that's 0.35, well, this one's going to be 1, I guess. Point to move from. Actually, you're going to go back on what I said. Sorry. Okay, so 600. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this one because we need to get some scale out of this. So let's do R0. 3.5. Okay, and then we'll do these at 10. So move R0, 10 feet. Oops. R0, 10 feet. Yeah, okay, now we're getting some contouring. Let's just do that. That's fine. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do these two. Wait a minute. Yeah. Move. Doesn't exactly matter where you move it from, because it's going to just go vertically from there. So R0, and this is 20 feet now from the 0, right? Because we're going 800. Ho ho. Okay, and now we're going to move the last ones here. And I think this is like, let's go back to the image, make sure that we get what we want here. 77, so we're going to be 20, 27.7, and 25.9 feet. Okay, move. R0, 27.7 feet. Oops, did it again. R0, 27.7 feet. Okay, and then I'm just gonna move R0, and then I think it was like, I'm just gonna do 25 feet. Okay. Now we've got our contours, and we've got our kind of land mass here. All that's looking pretty good. And actually, I should have done this before, but I can go ahead and do it now. I'm just going to go ahead and trim everything. So I'm just going to select these. Oops. Parent intersections, yes. Extend lines, yes. Huh. Oops. Not what I wanted. Just do trim with the big box, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim these down. You can do it in 3 dimensions if you're looking at it in an orthographic view. I'm just going to clean the edges up so that our land mass, when we finish with it, is going to be clean. Okay. So we've got that. Go ahead and save a copy. Incremental save just saves a copy really quickly. Okay, so to do this, one method for doing this that I think works, that can work pretty well, is you select everything, and you want to basically you want to show points for those objects. Just turn edit points on. Oh, beautiful! Look at that. And then you want to say select points, and that'll select all the points. And then you can say patch. And we got to kind of eyeball this here to see what the spacing wants to be. Let's see what we get. So I'm going to do a sample point spacing, maybe 5, stiffness of 2. Preview it. Yeah, not going to do as much good if we look at it that way. You can see we've got a land mass that kind of fits that. Let's reduce the spacing and increase the number of spans. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Pretty good. And the more spans you have, the longer it takes. But the higher resolution this is. Maybe too many there. I might have really hurt it. Let's give it a minute and see what comes out of it. Okay, that actually didn't take that long. As soon as I paused it, it basically finished. And that is a pretty clean surface. And if you look at it, I mean, I'm looking at wireframe. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your land. Okay. You will notice though, like the ends of it get kind of like crumply here, and that's actually something that we have to we're gonna basically trim that out. So don't worry about that too much. And then in fact, let's just go ahead and do that. So if we go back to view, we're going to say OK, take your thing, say trim, and you're just going to trim away the outside surface. And that should actually get you, you know, what you want. And you just want to check and see like what the edges look like. But see, that's not too bad. It's like we've got our hill up here. This gets very weird to me, the fact that we had this line and it kind of assumes that it's going up. It's just kind of the way that the surface is basically stretched over these forms. It's just one way that this technique kind of thinks it wants to work. You really can't loft this because of the way that they have islands in it, and that's why this technique exists. That's why I use it. Let's go ahead and turn points off. So you can right click, and it makes it easier to kind of read this thing. But this is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And then once you've got all that, and you go ahead and turn this stuff off, what I like to do is I like to make this into a solid. And so I'm going to go on the front view, and we go ahead and move this kind of piece down. And go back to this, and I'm going to say duplicate edge. And I hope that I can just click on the surface edges. And now I have the edges, right? And I'm actually going to go ahead and hide this. And now I can do a loft. And I just, oh wait a minute, I want to explode this. Okay, do a loft. Start with the bottom one, go to the top one, and then you just want to, I do a straight loft. Do not simplify. Just repeat that command. Okay, and then if I go to the bottom, well, I can just go ahead and drop a surface here. I know where the 4 points are, so let's make sure that your snaps are only on. Ooh, that might not work because I have these near snaps. Don't use near snaps unless you have to. They'll snap to pretty much anything. End snaps are really the only. There we go. Okay, and then if I say show, I'm going to select curves, delete them, and now if I take all these, I should be able to join them together. And we've got a closed poly surface, which is fantastic. Okay. And now, you know, if you did things, you could cut things out of the surface if you wanted to. Like for example, I'm just gonna give you an example of this. If you wanted to, in the model at least, I'm just gonna kind of fudge this, but if I make some lines and I move them up, I can project those lines. So I just select them, and then I select the surface, and they get projected, you know, into that surface. Oops. It's actually easier if you work on it on the surface, but I'm gonna go and explode. Actually, let's see here. And actually, I didn't think about this, but since I already joined the surface, it's going to be a little bit harder to do this. So I'm just going to, hopefully I can, yeah, there we go. Okay, so go back, top view, project these two lines onto the top surface, and then I should be able to use these lines to like split the surface. So and it gives me this. And then I can do things like I can extrude. Oops. Surface. You know, up from that. Oops. Didn't cap it. So solid, yes. And it actually creates a surface that follows that. If you wanted to go down, you could simply move it down a certain distance, and then you can duplicate the edges again, and then you can actually loft these two together and make that edge. Do it for the other side, and then you can actually trim this out and then union it together. So that's how you can carve things like roads and things or things that follow a surface. That works better in your digital model than in something that you probably want to fabricate. For these things, I don't think we probably need to worry about. But if you ever want to know how to do it, that's how you do it. Let's go back to this and make sure that it's a solid again. And I might have done. Did I do something to this? I mean, obviously I did something to it, but I wonder why it's not. Yeah, just go back to it the way it was. Okay, so closed poly surface. Okay, now to make your contours. So you know how you're going to fabricate this. What I would do at this point is I would scale it to whatever size it is going to be finally. So if I have my calculator here, I could say, so 315 feet, you know, or let's say, actually, no, 1 divided by 16, right? 0.625, so you can just say copy, scale, because it's 1 inch equals 16 feet, right? So, and then my reference, my factor is going to be 625. Now if I measure it with my tools, let's see here. That's 19 feet, 8 inches. That's not right. Let's see here. Well, actually, then we just convert it to inches. Yeah, so it would be 19 inches. So just go to units, change this to inches. Actually, should be divided by, let's just, if we divide this by 12, yeah, so going from feet to inches. So 1 divided by 12, just copy that. We'll figure this out. Okay, so scale, once again, this, and then we'll just put in that. And now it should be the right dimension. One 3/4 feet is roughly right if you think about it in terms of inches. Okay, so anyway, just if you get that scale right, that should work. Otherwise, you could always scale it to inches and then like make the conversion. As long as whenever you measure it, you get the number of inches that you want. And 315 feet, you know, should be about 19 inches. So if I had, let's just say 19 times 16, yeah, it's close enough. So about 19 inches on a side. Just check your math. Okay, so I've got this. I'm doing this because when I'm going to cut it, when I'm going to fabricate it, I want my lines to be the right scale. And I guess I could do this afterwards if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and scale it now. So you want to use the contour tool. So select object for contours, press enter, select the base point. The base point's the bottom. Direction perpendicular is going to be this way. Distance between contours. Now remember, we're in feet right now, So we would probably want to say, um, you know, let's see. So we're at 16 scale. Well, let's say like 1/16 of an inch. So um, 0.06. Actually, my math is off. So let's make sure I got that right. 0.0625 inches. If I want to do 16, let's just say I'm doing 16 scale materials. I don't know if I did that. If I did that quite right. But that's going to give me, it's giving me contours. Something doesn't seem right about this. Let me change the units to inches the way it's supposed to be, and then we'll just work on it that way. Let me check my dimensions again. Units, inches. And let's check the dimensions. 1 3/4 inches. No, so I guess maybe I shouldn't have divided it by 12. Just scale it by inches. Sorry. Easy fix though. 1 foot 7 3/4 inches. Yeah, okay, so that's right. Okay, let's do that again. So contours, base point. Distance between contours, this is pretty close anyway. Crunch, 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 crunch. Yeah. Lovely, lovely, lovely. There you go. Okay, so pretty good, right? So there's your contours. Now what do we do with that? So you go ahead and turn off the surface. This is going to get in your way. And what you can do, is basically check. So you can see. You want to basically go in, and there's easier ways to do this, but it involves kind of scripting. But what I would have you guys do is basically just like organize these, everything that's on a layer, right? Everything that's on the same contour, and then just basically organize your file so that these are all the lines that you need. So you can take. Let's just take, for example, this works better if you have, let's just make it with fewer contours, and then it'll probably be a little bit easier to work with. Contour, so let's do it by 1/4 inch. Okay, and be a little bit easier to work with in this case. And this could very well be what you do, but remember, the more contours you have, the higher the resolution, and the easier it's going to be to sand all this together. If that's what you decide to do. Okay, so yeah, we can take this, and I would just group. Oops, no Rhino. So group these together. And there's going to be things inside of each other, so just be really careful with how you select them. And then, if you've got these grouped, you can make another layer for them. And then basically, what you want to do is go into, start making yourself a like a file that has all these pieces on it, and then you can actually cut that out on the laser cutter, and then you can put those back together again. One thing that I recommend that you do for that method is basically take and make copies of them, like 2 at a time. Oh, and also, it helps to have a copy of the outer piece too. This one. So here you have a sheet, and you can say, okay, so I know. So if this is the contour, you would cut this out, and then you would score the next one so that you know where to put this piece on top, and then that's just going to be really helpful. And I wouldn't cut this because it's going to waste a lot of material, like this piece right here, but just use it for reference and basically just make a sheet of these things, and then you want to lay out the sheet so that you don't waste as much material. So just kind of keep these things together, like this piece with this score on it, this piece with that score on it, and it's also very helpful in Rhino to add a little label to something. And it's a good idea to try to add the label in a place where you're not gonna see it. And so you could call this like 615 feet. And I think actually I can probably, we're not making that very big, but just make it big enough to be visible, but put it in a spot where it's going to be covered up by the next layer. And then once you've got one, it's easy to just copy the label, and then you can just change what it says. So you can call it 600 feet. And scoring those on there in a place where it's not visible is going to really help you organize yourself as you're working. So the key to all this is to have a plan with your partners that you're working with for how you're going to organize it. You know, what scale you're going to cut things out at. You know, like how many, basically like what the size of your material is. Note that material sometimes, if it says 1/4 inch, might not be exactly like a 1/4 inch. It might be, you know, something like 3/32 of an inch. So just be really, you know, measure stuff, be really careful. You know, the more organized you are, the less time it's going to take you to cut and assemble. If you have any questions about it, let me know. But this is just a really, really brief kind of off-the-cuff overview of how this works. But hopefully it's gonna give you the ability to make some really precise models. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys in class.